Hello, friends. Welcome back to the 10th edition of What the Facts? The most frequently asked questions about nutrition. I'll remind you that these presentations are not meant to be used as medical advice. Only non prescriptive information is provided. Now, I'd like to use this segment to discuss macronutrients. That's something that has come up in my office a few times and has caused some confusion. So, what are macronutrients? Well, macro we know means big, and nutrients are substances that we take in that help our growth and maintenance and reproduction. So, macronutrients means usually these are larger molecules that require a larger amount to satisfy our nutrient needs. And micronutrients are smaller particles or require smaller amounts to satisfy our nutrient needs. Some examples of micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that are in plants. That's what phyto means, plant-based. Macronutrients, the ones most talked about are carbs, protein, and fat. But what's often left out of the conversation is water. And sometimes that's because water is considered in and of itself a separate and very important vital nutrient. Also, sometimes fiber is included when we're talking about macronutrients. But I'm going to focus on the big three, the carbs, the fat, and the protein. But I do want to mention that water should not be overlooked. You know, we hear all about these special mixes and blends and juices for detoxing, even stuff it's probably a multi-million-dollar industry, detox formulas. But the greatest detoxing substance is water. That's the universal solvent. It's something living things cannot be without. And for us human beings, the water allows the blood to flow more freely to our detox center, the liver. That's our detox organ. So we want to protect our liver. And the best way to protect your liver, besides keeping well hydrated, is to limit the toxins that we eat, that we drink. Limit those processed foods that make up 60% of the standard American diet, the SAD diet. Don't smoke. Limit the alcohol. That's what our liver gets busy trying to deal with. But especially those processed foods, the junk food, fast food, processed sugars, other processed carbs. Our liver is constantly trying to deal with that. So let's have less intake of that and more whole foods so our liver doesn't get overtaxed. So many ask, well, how much water should we drink? And depending on where you read or who you listen to, you might get different answers to that. I kind of go with the old platform of 8 glasses a day. And, then you might try to figure out how you're going to do that. I know that's always been a struggle for me. And I make kidney stones. Done that a couple of times already. It's not fun. So I'm supposed to drink actually more than 8 glasses. I've been told 12 to 16. Oh, gosh, that's hard. Anyway, Dr. Will Bolsowitz, my favorite online GI doctor, has a nice construct for this. He says, when you get up in the morning, get your 2 glasses in, and then get in a couple of glasses before each meal, assuming you eat 3 meals, and then you have your 8 glasses. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But I found if I go by swallows, I know I'm getting in. Like I know 8 ounces, a cup, for me is about 14 swallows. So I try to, sometimes I do it in 7 swallows and then take a rest and then 7 more swallows. But you can figure it out. The thing about water is that we all need it, and we probably don't drink enough of it. And if you're talking about detoxing, start there. Now, I do find water kind of boring sometimes, and so I just squirt a little lemon in it to give me a little flavor, not sugar. I'm not making lemonade. just some lemon, and that helps me a lot. It also tends to alkalize the urine, so it's good to help me to prevent making more stones, more kidney stones, because I have calcium oxalate stones. So anyway, water's good. Now let's move on to carbs. Now carbs get a really bad they get bad press, and they really shouldn't, because not all carbs are the same. There's complex carbs that are embedded in the plants that we eat, especially the whole food plants that we consume, the non-processed. And then there are the simple carbs that are in more processed foods, processed sugar, fast food, the sodas. It's those simple carbs that do us in. It's the simple carbs that cause the rapid insulin spike and lead and gives an assist to insulin resistance. So that's the carb we need to watch out for. We have so many people saying, "Oh, I gotta limit my carbs," and they get on these keto diets sometimes, high fat, low carb, when really, the muscle, the liver, the brain thrives on glucose. Glucose is a carb. So carbs are not bad. It's just those processed ones we need to really limit to the best of our abilities. And when we eat carbs that are embedded in fruit and plants and beans and grains that have not been overprocessed, that does not cause an insulin spike. The fiber in those plants slows down the absorption of the sugar. So some of the sugar goes right out the back end. So yes, carbs are not all alike. We need to make sure that we get as much plant-based carbs in as we can. They do help us thrive. There's nothing wrong with starches that are in whole plants, that's in potatoes, is in brown rice. Those are okay. They don't get absorbed as fast if they've not been bleached out and polished, like white rice. So that's why whole foods are so important. Let's move on to fat. Now, the thing about fat is that most of the fat in the standard American diet comes from animals. And that's what's unhealthy. Fat that comes from meat and egg and dairy, the cheese, sour cream, those things, those contain saturated fats and cholesterol. And that's what increases our heart risk, our cardiac risk, our risk of stroke, our risk of kidney disease, a risk of diabetes, a risk of dementia. So we really want to try to minimize, really eliminate those sources if we can, and get our fat from plants. We can get as much fat as we need from nuts and seeds and avocado. Make sure you're not allergic to those nuts and seeds, but there's plenty of fat to go around in those plants. 30% of the American diet is comprised of fat, and we don't need 30% of our energy, our calories, coming from fat. The other thing I'd just say about fat is the other factors are that it's really first the fat that leads to the insulin resistance. Carbs get the bad rap, but first there's fatty infiltration of liver cells and muscle cells, making it difficult for our insulin receptors to work. And when those don't work, that's why you get the high sugars. And that's why then the sugar that you eat, especially those simple sugars from processed foods, zoom up. They have high glycemic index, and they cause the sugars to shoot up. And that's why you can ultimately end up with diabetes when your pancreas conks out. That would be type 2 diabetes. So you can prevent this. And I'll tell you, about probably 70+%, they estimate 75 or higher percent of people in this country have insulin resistance, which precedes diabetes. And that's because of this standard American diet that promotes ill health, that keeps hospital centers busy, and big pharma rich, and the food industry, wheeling and dealing on us. So let's turn that around and enhance our health by eating healthier foods that are more whole, foods that are plant-based. So fats, when we really eat healthier fats and get rid of that animal fat, we decrease our risk for a lot of the major diseases, as I may have mentioned, including dementia, Alzheimer's. Now, the last is protein. Last but not least, Now, that's a common question. Where am I going to get my protein? I did a whole video. I think it's video number 2, if I'm not mistaken. But one video was dedicated to protein. We don't need that much protein. Only 8 grams per kilogram of weight. We're talking about somewhere around 45 to 55 grams of protein daily. You don't even have to count how much grams of protein you're eating when you eat plants. All plants have protein, and it's more in the area of the beans and soy and split peas, those the legume family, and in to a higher degree the whole grain family of foods. Whole grains have amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Animal-based protein can increase something called IGF-1, this hormone, this growth hormone, which is good for when we're children and we need to grow big and strong, but not so good once we are fully grown. Then that IGF protein can promote the growth of cells that shouldn't be growing, called tumors and cancers. Also, the animal-based protein can increase your risk for reflux, that's GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and it can tax your kidneys. People are taking extra protein, sometimes whey protein, other animal-based protein, and some of them are doing their kidneys in. Especially people that have already a history of hypertension or are insulin resistant. So we really don't need to be doing that. You can get all the protein you need from plants. So I've covered the 3 macro ingredients. In a future video, I will cover the nutrients, macronutrients I meant. I'll cover micronutrients in the future. If you like this video, if it was informative, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my website, www.fearlessmd21.com. And remember that, nobody said this was going to be easy. It's a challenge to transform your diet into a healthier diet. But consider it a journey, not a destiny you're trying to reach. And just hang in there. And remember, you can rehabilitate your taste buds. Some things may not taste so good to you without the high salt, fat, and sugar. And if you just kind of stick to it and realize that your taste buds, as Dr. David Katz has said, another online mentor of mine, says the taste buds love the ones they're with eventually. So just stick with it and do the best you can. I'll leave you with the ending quote from Joyce Meyer. She said something that really resonated with me. She said that she believes the greatest gift you can give to your family and the world is a healthier you. All right, have a good week, and I'll see you next time.